big relief for Lupin, the USFDA giving its establishment inspection report for the company's facility in Goa after the company received warning letters in September. Pankaj Poddar, of course, caught up with Ramesh Swaminathan, who is the company's executive director and global chief financial officer, as well as head corporate affairs, to understand what this EIR could mean for the company and the path ahead. Listen in.
As you know, we actually had a warning letter which was there for close to about 4 years, so to speak. We actually got this letter way back in 2017. Since then, we have been working on actually trying to solve a lot of those issues that they had raised. And obviously, it takes a lot of time and effort as well. We are in some ways kind of unlucky because perhaps this could have been resolved a little earlier if COVID was just not to be there. But as you would know, during the COVID times, it was just not possible for the FDA authorities to come to India to inspect the plant. Therefore, it took its time. The good news is that they did ultimately come, and we have now got the EIR. It actually means that the warning letter is removed. As you would also be aware, if you have a warning letter, then approvals for those plants are not stymied, so to speak. And we have got a rich pipeline of close to about 109, of which about 24, 25 are actually from this plant itself. So the good news is that, you could expect a lot of approvals to come for this plant. And obviously, it helps in augmenting the overall top line for Lupin.
Of course. So, this is something which was an important event, maybe 1-2 years ahead. There are other plants as well for Lupin which have been under the scanner. You expect one-by-one inspection and solutions over there as well?
Yes, as you would be aware, there are at least 3 other plants in India. So we got Goa Unit 2, which is also under the radar in that sense. So we also have, we have a plant at Mandideep and of course Taraport. And we do expect, in fact, these plants to get inspected over the next, few weeks, quarters, whatever, and expect a resolution for all of this in the course of the next few months.
So you were. Right. So you were a part of the company when the warning letters across various plants were being issued. You were a part of the company when the good news regarding lifting of these warning letters has started, or at least, and hope that warning letter would be lifted pretty soon. What were the learnings in the last 3 or 4 years? Companies do make mistakes. Companies do have issues with authorities where they operate with. But what are the learnings now? How will the company ensure that, things run smoothly after this point of time?
We've always accorded top attention focus to, in fact, quality-related issues, to the regulatory issues, to compliance and the like. But as you would also realize, it's also a question of interpretation and the like. And in a different sense, USFDA also wants us to be on top of a host of things, and the new angles which are being drawn up from time to time. So there is, of course, an interpretation about the way we look at OOS and the like, whilst, of course, the authorities have a very different view on that. And that's actually what caused the problem across several of our plants. The good news is that we worked on it and are in a position to say that we are, now meet their very stringent standards, so to speak, and are confident that we would be, we'd be able to stand the test of time in terms of our processes and be on top of it. So going forward, we have learned our lessons, and it's been a pretty expensive lesson because for the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen that the top line has not really grown. So, it was indeed a very expensive, lesson, so to speak, but we are coming out the better out of this.
Right. So also, one more thing which one of the other companies indicated was that a lot of processes over the last 7-8 years, especially in the new plants across companies, has been automated. So the data error, the manual errors that used to happen, the record keeping that used to happen has got completely eradicated. So over the time, do you also feel that, a lot of errors which used to just happen because they were done manually and now they are done automatically, it would essentially change the way FDA looks at these inspection, or at least those areas?
You're absolutely spot on there. A digital trail can never be erased, and to that extent, the USFDA has also been insisting on a digital trail for most of, for all our processes and the like. And all companies have been caught on to this. So to the extent they are also kind of automating, looking at a digital trail, batch records and the like, and a host of other things also. So Industrial 4.0 is on top of is indeed the focus area for a lot of companies, including us. And we have been doing this for the last about several months now. And we believe that going forward, this is certainly going to help us from a compliance perspective, B, from looking at further efficiencies on various parameters, the golden badge, averting, in fact, OAS, OOTs, and the like, more important, scheduling of goods using a twin engine and the like, looking at predictive analytics for reducing our overall costs. So a lot of things on the anvil, and this is certainly something which is coming out of the digital strategy. Not that it was the focus has always been there, but I think it's been kind of accentuated because of all of these issues.
Right. So also just you could talk to us about the US markets, pricing erosion seen in the last 2 quarters. But, one could also say that, it could just be a passing sort of a pricing issue because suddenly, 2-3 quarters you saw great demand coming in because of COVID and COVID related drugs. So do you think that US pricing is stabilizing now? And secondly, on India growth, but not on the COVID drugs, on the non-COVID drugs?
Okay, let's talk about the US issue. So US, of course, it's been a market where, in fact, only a couple of, therapy areas, platforms, if you may, actually has been growing. So generic industry in the general sense have kind of regressed. What is a $65 billion industry has come down to about 56, 57 over the last 4 years. But in that, you would actually find respiratory space, the complex injectable space actually growing. And there's, of course, biosimilars. And we are present in all of those, so that's been a focus area. So going forward, you could expect a lot of good news from Lupin because that's been the focus area for quite some time. You speak about price erosion. Yes, it did catch us by surprise. There has been, so there have been times when the price erosion was a lot more because of consolidation in the industry itself, consolidation in the channel partners industry, that is. But that again, during the beginning of this fiscal year, we did find. There was, in fact, price erosion, which again backed, a cachet of products, so to speak. So essentially, the idea is to move away from, the more generic ones to the more, simple ones to more complex, generic, so to speak. And that's been the focus that I spoke about. And I think, you can't take a broad brush and kind of paint everything with it. So as I said, if you really have a portfolio for that particular market, which is less, intense from a competition point of view, you would certainly do much better. And that is exactly the focus that Lupin is also kind of trying to achieve. You also spoke about India. India, I think last year was a different year because of COVID. And, so those companies that really had products for COVID did fairly well. Unfortunately, we were not able to catch the full COVID wave, so to speak. But this year has been a particularly different experience. We find both chronic and acute to do extremely well. The first quarter was a resounding success. It's been a fairly good second quarter and the third quarter so far. So things are kind of looking up insofar as India is concerned. But if we talk about the other markets, API is still under some stress because cephalosporins are not selling, and there is, of course, this price rise. There's several parts to the entire story, so to speak. One is, of course, the flu season in America. We really don't know how it's going to turn out. It's unknown quantity at this stage. There is, of course, secular price rise across various RMPM and the like. That's, of course, causing a lot of stress in the industry. But overall, it is challenging times, but there is, of course, silver lining to the entire cloud.